Well, we're gonna jump right into it. And for those people that are small group facilitators, sorry that I did not send you an email to just let you know that we're not doing small groups tonight. So, but next time when we get together for workshop 3, we'll actually be doing 2 small groups. But tonight is a slightly different format, and I'm going to jump right in. But actually, I think before I do that, I'm just going to have the design team introduce themselves one more time so you know. So could folks from SMMA say hello?
So I'm Phil Poinelli, educational planner, and I've been last week meeting with teachers and staff and administrators and having a wonderful time getting started.
Great.
And I'll bust in.
Yeah.
I'm a project manager. There you go. Helen Fantini, project manager with SMMA, and I'm going to hand it off to Matt.
So thanks, Helen. Matt Rice, project architect with SMMA. Go to Ben, maybe.
Yep, I'm Ben Williams. I'm an architectural designer helping out the team on the architecture side for the project. I think we've already.
And Isabel, who we already said hello to.
Yeah, I said everybody because I think I'm last. But yep, my name's Isabel. Like you so dearly said, I'm a graduate of Wakefield High. I'm a new interior designer at SMMA, and I'm enjoying my experience so far. So I'm excited for all the things that come.
Great. Shane.
Yeah, Shane Nolan with Left Field, the owner's project manager. And we have Lynn.
Hi, Lynn Stapleton. I'm also with Left Field, owner's project manager.
So you have a very capable and thoughtful team here. And I just want to make sure that everybody knew who everyone was on the design team and the OPMs. Can people see my screen okay now?
Yes.
Thumbs up? Okay. So today we are going to be doing a little bit of a review of some of the highlights from our last workshop last week. And then we're going to hear from folks on the school side who are going to be giving us a 30-minute kind of overview of key elements of programming, both now and as envisioned for the future at Wakefield Memorial High School. We're going to then take a break, actually for 15 minutes, I think we'll take, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do get a snapshot of where people see the strengths, challenges, opportunities, and goals here with regard to both the academic program at Wakefield Memorial and the present facility that you have or the new facility that you will have. So we're going to try and get a sense of what you see as things that you do really well, things that that's important for the design team to know that we need to support. Also, the challenges that you're experiencing both academically and in terms of the facility, and then opportunities and goals that's connected to this project. And then we're going to get into talking about architectural design patterns. Now, I'm going to introduce in 40 minutes about 40 design patterns, and it's interactive. So we're going to be using Mentimeter again for you to respond to them and shout out the ones that you're most excited about. And then when we come back next time for workshop 3, we're going to be getting into small groups and talking more about those design patterns. We'll see which ones rose to the top in terms of our initial response to them. And then we're going to talk more in detail about what they might look like within a new or renovated Wakefield Memorial building. So that's what we're doing tonight. And just as a reminder, this is a process that has these key parts to it that build one on another. So we are going to be still focusing on educational vision and priorities tonight, introducing design patterns. And then in our next workshop, we'll be doing guiding principles and talking about some key spaces and adjacencies and blue sky ideas. And then in our 4th workshop, we'll be doing actual adjacency diagramming. Now, Shane sent you out today a copy of all the notes from our last workshop. It's about 12 pages long, so it goes into quite a bit of detail. But what we did do is try and make it so that you can skim through it by looking at the headlines, and then you can get into more detail if you want to go to the bullet points. So what I have here is just a couple of slides that have some of the priorities. If you remember, we first talked about educational priorities, then we talked about architectural priorities, and then we talked about community priorities. Not that there's not a lot of overlap in all of these things, but I'll just start out with 2 pages of some of the highlights. Now, each of these are the headings as part of the consolidated note set that we sent out. So underneath each of these are probably 5 to 10 bullets that get into a little bit more detail. But some of the themes that are emerging would be support for emerging practices, and that means some practices that we don't even know about yet. And an interest in a collaborative and interdisciplinary sort of more opportunities for collaborative and interdisciplinary learning. Excuse me. A place that inspires students and programming that inspires students and inspires their full engagement. An inclusive school culture. There's quite a bit that people said about what that might look like. Special education resources and services, we know that they are in the MSBA template, and we'll be talking more about sort of how they might be located throughout the building. Integrated use of technology, and there was a lot of discussion of, yeah, let's have a really robust infrastructure that's going to be able to handle all the new technology coming down the line. Support for STEAM and maker programming, social emotional learning, mentorship and internships, career education. There was quite a lot about career education and authentic application of content. Arts, music, and performance and athletics were also big on people's minds in terms of, now, these are spaces, just so you know, the art, music, and performance spaces and the athletic spaces, that is part of the MSBA template, which is a very thoughtful and I think quite generous template in terms of square footage. So all of the spaces that you need for those programs, including a full stage with lighting and sound, are all going to be made available as part of this opportunity. Now, in terms of the architectural priorities, I've got 2 pages of those. Again, there's quite a bit of overlap. So an innovative and inspiring building to house an innovative and inspiring program. Focusing on safety and welcome. And we're going to see a lot of these connect to the design patterns that we'll be talking about in the second part of this evening. Evolving and flexible building. Visible learning and display, being able to really sort of celebrate the work going on in the school and being able to see key kind of programs, showcasing those. Equal access and opportunities, and that relates to the idea of universal design and ease of wayfinding throughout the building, not just handicapped accessibility. Support for inquiry-based learning and STEAM on the physical level. Good flow and circulation, sustainability, and we know we're going to be talking about that. Ergonomic and physical comfort, just generally making this a place that feels like a place you want to be. And the word non-institutional came up a bunch of times. A student learning commons, place to build community, flexible and agile classrooms and other learning spaces, and collaborative and interdisciplinary spaces. And finally, community priorities, a good fit for the community, for use and access in safe ways, access to fields and outdoor spaces, as well as key amenities, including art, music, and performance space, and parking and site circulation. There were a lot of exclamation marks around parking. And then if you remember, we talked about future-ready learning goals. And so we're calling this Future Ready Learning Goals 1.0. What I did is I took each of the lists that your 7 different small groups came up with, and every time a learning goal came up in one of those groups, because we had 5 people essentially in each of the groups, I gave it 5 votes. And then I put them in similar buckets. Now this is subjective, so this is really a first pass at this. And I just wanted to share it with you. And actually, then I'm going to open up to a Mentimeter page to see what you think about this. If this feels like a good reflection, not only of your conversation last week, but as you think about Wakefield Memorial High School, you know, does this feel like if you were going to have a learning goals poster in each room, would this feel like a good one to have? Is there anything missing? Anything that is striking you or seems surprising to you? But I put these in order of how big the buckets were in terms of the number of votes, and I'll just go through them quickly. Global citizenship came up at the top, appearing on everybody's list in different forms. And again, this is subjective in terms of what I have grouped here, because you could easily choose one of these other bullet points to be the heading here. So this is really something on the school side. I know that Amy said when we did this at Lowell High School, when she was there, that they actually used this list in a substantial way in the school. If this were something that you wanted to use, obviously this would be, you'd need to do more work on it. But for our purposes in designing the building and in really communicating to the design team what it is that you value, that's really, and to the community as we talk about what this building might look like. So global citizenship came up at the top, and that had a lot to do with this notion of inclusion, equity, celebrating diversity, and also engaged citizenship within the school. So really cultivating a sense of belonging and cultural awareness and competence. Empathy is right up at the top there as well. Inventive thinking and problem solving. So that with that, I put the imagination, creativity, curiosity, critical thinking, hands-on and experiential learning. Now, I always look for where the 4 C's show up in here, or the 5 C's, and we can see them, you know, they're kind of all over here, but certainly critical thinking and effective communication, collaboration, creativity, and citizenship are all here. Self-directed learning was number 3. Also with, or tied for 40 votes. I connected that to the idea of growth mindset, intrinsic motivation, students developing self-confidence and self-advocacy. And then we have social emotional intelligence. Now I just put, again, the number of votes here. In a further iteration of this, we can take the votes away, and it doesn't have to be in a hierarchical order at all. And it could be simplified somewhat. But social emotional intelligence, managing responsibility, interpersonal skills, managing complexity, and then effective communication, both verbal, nonverbal, and social. Digital age literacy. A lot of people talked about digital age literacy. And I wasn't sure if that maybe belonged with communication, but I put it as its own category. And then collaboration and leadership. And people mentioned both for students and teachers. So we also asked you to do this word wall or word cloud. And what's interesting is that, so everybody just, if you remember at the very end, you all contributed your own top 6 individually. And so I just put these next to each other to see that actually there's a lot of overlap here between what people said. What you all said individually was important to you and what the consensus was of the larger group. And so global citizenship is here, not always in the same order. Inventive thinking and problem solving, here's creative thinking, self-directed learning, we have growth mindset and self-directed learning. Social emotional intelligence is one that didn't make it into its own category here, but could very well. And then we've got communication and digital age literacy and collaboration. So there's a lot of overlap there. So this is something that, again, if you want to choose to work on it for a version number 2, we can start that right now by just checking in with you all. If you go to menti.com and type in this code 89666042, you will come to this page. And so the question here is, what strikes you about this list? Does this seem like it's a good reflection of learning goals that the school values? What's missing? Does it feel aspirational? might you organize it in a different way? So this is just an opportunity. We'll take just 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes for people to add their comments here. And if there's enough direction that I get from the comments, I can try version 2.0. So everybody able to find that page? And for those folks that are new, this Mentimeter format allows us to kind of poll you and get real-time feedback. We're going to see it visually come up on the screen. It's all anonymous. We don't know who's sending what. And we're just interested in kind of learning as much as possible about your culture.
David, this might be a foolish question, but I've never had to leave a screen to go to a site. It's always been in the chat, and then I linked in through there. How do I leave this? How do I leave the screen?
Can you open another, Meg, can you open another window?
Press the Windows button on your keyboard if you have one.
If you open another window in your
I don't have a Mac.
No,
Yeah.
on a PC, it's right between Control and Alt at the bottom of the keyboard. There's usually a keyboard that looks like 4 windows.
Yeah, if you have a Mac, Meg, you could do
Yes.
Command T or Command N. That will give you a new window or a new tab. Did that work?
No, I mean, I can get the new tab. Okay, let me try this. See if this works.
Meg, if you're in the full screen mode, if you hit escape on a Mac, it should minimize that window, make it smaller so you can get to a new tab, a new
Yeah,
window.
I'm on the Mentimeter right now, but
Okay, got it.
yeah, thank you.
Sure. All right, well, let's scroll over here and see what people are thinking. And again, I'm going to really encourage people to shout out, just like raise your hand or just put yourself off mute and comment on anything. It's always nice to, this is great because it visually tells us what people are thinking, but it's always nice to hear from people as well if you have something that you want to share. Yeah, so educational goals, scoring, scoring well on standardized assessment tests doesn't seem to be on this list. Interestingly, on this list, the mastery of core academic subjects did not come up. Usually that comes up. It was one of the options that people could choose from. So that's interesting that it didn't. But that's certainly something that's all of this is in service of. Here we have a comment about this being really in line with the school mission and vision. And that the inventive learning section is more indicative of your true core. Okay. Emphasize learning on the next careers for the future. Metacognition or reflection on this list as well. So in general, it seems like people are thinking this appears to be a relatively good reflection, and then we've got some other things that we might add. All right. A point about mental health and wellness may want to be added. Okay. All right, great. So I guess, as I said last time, this conversation, I always feel like if you have more that you want to say, people have my email, so you can always email me with any other comments, or if you have any priorities that you want to add or anything that you think of, it's like, oh, I didn't see that, then certainly let me know. So now we're going to jump into a program overview. And can people see that now on my screen? I just toggled over to another. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 30 minutes to hear from our folks at the high school. And we have, I think, Amy, there are 11 slides. So we're going to take no more than 3 minutes, somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes for each slide. And various people are, when your slide comes up, just unmute and share with the group. And then I guess if there are any burning questions that come up while people are presenting, feel free to raise your hand, and otherwise maybe at the end we'll open up for any questions or comments. What we're trying to do here, this is a great, so I sent out a template in a Google Doc for just one page for all these different departments and focus areas within the school. And this is a really helpful thing for our design team to have as this kind of like snapshot of some of the things that you're thinking about. So we ask people to think about the key program features of your actual programs and your space needs, and looking forward how you imagine your program evolving. All right. So with that, I'm going to open up for, and I'm actually going to kind of time this. Just I'll gently let people know if we're needing to move on. Whoops. So we're going to start with the main office.
Great. So I'll start off with this. David, I just want to add one thing, that our instructional leadership team is really the group that took this on. So we had representatives from all content areas, teacher leaders and administrators from all content areas and programs across the building that we tried to sort of highlight. Mine will be very quick. The main office is basically the greeting spot when you come into the building. We've talked a lot about having it to be, needing it to be a public/private space. It needs to be public and opening and welcoming for when people come in the building, but there also need to be private spaces when students come down to see us for personal matters or disciplinary issues. And right now what we have is just a cluster of traffic where everybody can see, everything's public all the time. So students who are waiting to be dismissed are waiting next to students who maybe need to see someone to be disciplined, who may be waiting for somebody next to an architect who's just visiting for the day. So really thinking about how that space can be organized with areas for reception, administrative assistants, administrators, teachers visit for photocopies, supplies, things like that. So it really is just a very busy place that needs to be organized in a way that works.
Great. And so there's a very public realm that needs to be very accessible. And then there's a much more private realm of just the inner workings of the school and needing to check in with kids that are
correct. And there is really a 3 administrators, myself, the principal, 2 assistant principals, 3 administrative assistants. And we feel like a school resource officer should be close to the main office. Right now, that school resource officer is housed in guidance, but we would like that person housed as part of the main office.
Okay, great.
I cede my 2 minutes to another group, David.
All right. Well, actually, it's only 1 minute and 30 seconds, but.
Shoot.
All right, core academics.
Hi, I'm Erin Manzi. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, great. I'm the world language curriculum coordinator, grades 5 through 12, and I'm reporting, sharing out on the core academics. So with regard to core academics, students enroll in a variety of rich courses in core academics areas of English language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, and world language. Some of the key features, I think we could have continued on in this part, just some of them. To prepare our students for post-secondary academic courses of study and employment. Courses are offered in all core subjects at the college preparatory, honors, and advanced placement levels. To meet the diverse needs, academic needs, and social emotional needs of our students, and to provide opportunities for them to develop the skills, the essential skills they need in a rigorous learning environment. Our courses are offered with a variety of inclusive practices, such as differentiation, universal design for learning, and a variety of special education supports. Thinking forward and thinking about the spaces that we need for students and for educators, we definitely need a variety of comfortable, flexible, and collaborative spaces that promote future-ready teaching and learning. A space that infuses new technology and progressive, that we can continuously monitor that, as well as a place for students to showcase their work. We would love an outdoor classroom space as an extension of the learning environment, science laboratory space to support inquiry-based learning. thinking forward and looking forward to the future. And we've talked about this. These are all things that have definitely have been in some of the works in the past couple of weeks, but definitely a space that provides opportunities for students to think creatively, collaboratively, and critically, while engaging in inquiry-based activities that promote the development of the necessary skills to be contributing members of the local community, the global community, and society. Did I get cut off? Did I go over my 3 minutes?
Not at all. In fact, whoops, sorry, but I just, Erin, so when you think about that space, that those kind of collaborative spaces, what does it look like in your mind's eye? And anyone else, please comment on this too.
Absolutely. So we've talked about this. So thinking about collaborative spaces, I know we only have a certain amount of space within our classrooms, but just a space that I think that there's a space that we have tables and areas where students can work together in groups, but also spaces to the other side where students can work individually. That's within the classroom. But I also think of when I worked at the Galvin for many years, and right outside of our traditional classrooms, we also have project rooms that are glassed, so people can see in. And so actually within my classroom, I can still look inside of the project room. So students have the opportunity to not only work in our traditional classroom, but also bounce outside and work in a larger space with larger tables, but it's still visible to the teacher. Yeah. So to me, that's just very flexible, that I can have smaller groups, larger groups, and a space that really fits the needs for students.
And you can informally supervise students you kind of give them a little bit more leeway to be working more independently, but you're visually kind of supervising them.
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing is providing choice for students to work in an environment and work with a group that they feel most comfortable with.
Yeah. So one of the things, so you were talking about project rooms. One of the things we want to start to do tonight as we look at these different design patterns and as we think about your needs is start to develop the language that we want to use to describe what your architectural design priorities are. Do we want to have project rooms? Do we want to think about an extended learning area? What might that look like? The project room you were talking about sounds like it was glassed in, so it was enclosed. That could be like also, we're going to be sharing ideas about breakout rooms. And so just as we think about these spaces, let's think about the language we want to use to describe your particular kind of vision for.
Sure. And in thinking about that word project, I'm not always sure the word project is the right word. I love the word collaborative, like collaborative space. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean you're working on a project. You know, right, I think that it's collaboration can mean so many things.
Yeah. Okay. Great. STEM.
All right, I think I'm going to take this slide. So hi, my name's John Hanron. I'm the science department coordinator at the high school and also a teacher. So I'll talk about our STEM program and more specifically kind of the T and the E, so the technology and engineering part of our curriculum. So these classes are very student driven. We really try to engage students in like collaborative learning opportunities in these classes. So stuff like projects or hands-on activities, and also just kinds of challenging tasks. So some of the key program features, we have a curriculum called Project Lead the Way. And this is something that empowers students to solve real-world challenges. One example is students build a marble sorter. So they have to sort marbles based on their characteristics. And that's supposed to mimic a machine that can sort recycling products. So kind of that real world application piece. We also use Vex building materials for open-ended student design, and that's like a robotics company. In terms of key space needs for a new building, we would love to have engineering labs with work tables, storage, and display spaces. So that would help us support the collaborative work that we want our students to do, and also just have room to kind of house all the materials that we'll need. Computer lab. So a lot of the technology programs we use kind of require probably some more advanced processing power than most students bring with their devices and like their Chromebooks. So we think a computer lab would be good for supporting that. And also having easy access to outdoor spaces so we can support the testing of prototypes, like in the past, they've built solar panel cars, or they've launched rockets, catapults, stuff like that. So kind of having the
Yeah.
space for that kind of work.
Yeah.
And then lastly, looking forward, we think our program could expand to include spaces for woodworking, robotics, mechanics, kind of make those things possible. And STEM is, inherently like a meta discipline. So we'd love to kind of think more about how to integrate the science, technology, engineering, math, and then bridge in other content areas as well.
Right. Well, when we talk about the STEAM piece, then bringing in the art and I think and the humanities,
Right.
There's a lot of folks that are trying to think about how to do that, and what that looks like is when you're doing a project around a solar powered car or something, you're also writing about it or putting together a manual or something that connects to your humanities programming. Okay. And I know that Project Lead the Way has a lot of big tubs of plastic, tubs of materials and kits of parts, right? So
Right.
that's like rack metal shelving surrounding the walls and then big tables that you can spread out on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and also a lot of the time when we're designing STEM or STEAM or maker spaces, we are putting garage doors that go either out into the hallways or out into an outdoor patio or both to kind of extend that learning and when students are making bigger things. All right, great. Thanks, John. Moving along here then. Student services, special education, and ELL.
Yep, I can talk through that. Hi, I'm Rosie Galvin. I'm the Director of Special Education for the district. And Mary Beth Ebert put this together. She's the high school coordinator for special ed. She'll be on soon, but I can kind of walk us through some of the key program features and the space needed and what we're hoping for in the future. So this is really looking at students who qualify for special education services through an IEP and those who are identified as English language learners. And so some of the key program features are co-taught and supported classes that are designed to increase supports for students with disabilities and ensuring that they're in the least restrictive environment with their peers in the gen ed classroom as much as possible, getting accommodations and modifications. Other current key program features are learning support centers that special ed teachers work directly with students and giving them direct instruction to help with their academic development, executive functioning skills, study skills. And we have 2 programs currently within the high school. There's the School to Life program, which offers more kind of pre-vocational opportunities for students and learning about activities of daily living. And so in our other conversations, we talked about ensuring that there's adequate space for students in that program to practice those skills. And we also have the PAL program for alternative learning, that offers more therapeutic supports embedded throughout a student's day. And so if we're looking ahead, we're hoping to have other programs in the future based on looking at the needs of students in the younger grades who will be transitioning up to the high school at some point. And so we're hoping to kind of expand out to service students who are on the autism spectrum, have autism spectrum disorder, those who are medically fragile. And so ensuring that we kind of have adequate space, large space, because often that comes with equipment that's necessary for those students, and expanding other programs like those with learning-based learning disabilities. And so that's kind of the conversations we're having in terms of different programs we want to ensure that we have to offer students in the space that would accompany that. And so talking about the key space needs, some of the ones that I had just touched upon, we would need space for those self-contained classrooms that have the appropriate resources for those populations. And otherwise, kind of looking at students who are included in co-taught classes within the high school to have kind of flexible seating and ensuring that there's opportunities for lots of small group instruction and collaboration within that general education classroom as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. There's lots of different levels of need, and primarily we want the classrooms to function as station-based kind of, or the potential to have lots of different things going on within a classroom, to be able to extend that out into breakout rooms, extended learning areas. When DESE looks at special education delivery, they want, for the most part, a push-in approach that is going to distribute those spaces throughout the school, but you will also have your OT, PT, sensory spaces, and those can be in more private spaces, as can your more self-contained classroom. So, and I should just reiterate that we're looking at the 10,000 foot view here, like we're just getting big picture kind of like priorities and needs. And Phil and his team are on the ground kind of like getting much more into the nitty gritty as they, you know, go to different levels of programming. So as connected to exactly what kind of self-contained classroom spaces you might need, for instance. All right. Okay, thank you, Rosie. Visual arts, TV media.
David, did we miss guidance? And
I might have, because, oh, here we go. All right, STEM guidance. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, so hi, everybody. I'm Dave Robinson, Director of Guidance here at the high school. So our slide covers a few different positions. We have 4 guidance counselors, 2 adjustment counselors, 2 school psychologists, and 2 school nurses. It was a little difficult to put everything on small little bullets here, but all these positions do so many things. But as far as some of the key features go, the guidance counselors, they work with students to help develop overall, there's the academic, the career, and the social emotional skills. This could be individual counseling and working with students, or it could be small group counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it feels odd to just cut that position down to that one bullet, but that is the key pieces. And then as far as the 2 adjustment counselors and the school psychologist, they provide a lot of individual counseling, but also group counseling. And those are typically more for students who need tier 2 and tier 3 support, a little bit higher level after the tier 1 supports have been put into place. They also play a really critical role in providing support whenever we have any type of crisis situation where we need extra support for students at any given time. The school nurses, they attend to all health-related issues that occur within the school day, and that also includes any kind of health-related crises. So they play a huge role in the safety of our school and our well-being. All of these positions, they communicate and they collaborate with families, teachers, and each other to provide the best possible services for our students. As far as key space needs, when it comes to the guidance office, I think I thought this a lot, is that this is really an exciting time to be reviewing what our department currently does, and the fact that there's a new school in the works at the same time is kind of exciting, because ideally we'd like to have these positions essentially located. Right now, our 2 adjustment counselors are in each different locations, neither one in the guidance suite. So a thought would be to kind of bring everyone together to have a hub of support and guidance. Our first piece that we'd walk into would be a lobby area, and that needs to be welcoming, supportive, and have a system where there can be small tables, so small groups of students can work together, or with other counselors, but also a couple of individual spaces. We've mentioned that on a couple other slides tonight, where students sometimes come in, they just need to have their own space. So basically something it's warm, it's welcoming, and students want to gather there. That would be the key. Also, one of the most important pieces is to have confidentiality and privacy. Currently, our walls are not exactly the thickest walls, so we have to go, be very cautious of making sure that things that we're talking with students that we're confidential. And so we'd like to see new office space with, privacy. Ideally, the counselors would like to have a small table with a couple of chairs, because they've had, if you're ever going to have a parent or 2 talk about a child, it'd be nice to have at least some type of a setting that you could use in your own office. So that would be key. And as far as a conference room goes, we'd like to have a small conference room, because there's so many different reasons why guidance counselors or the adjustment counselors, school psychologists need a place to do some type of support. And a conference room that is big enough to have 10 or 12 people in there, and with a little bit of technology as far as a screen, that would be nice. And one of the last pieces is a designated area for college and career. As we know, we've come up with this a lot with a lot of these slides and the needs and the desires of the school. And I think it would be great to have more of a focus on that. So to connect that with a new school. Anybody that's been to a lot of different high schools before knows that a lot of them have a college and career center, like a separate designated place for employers to come in for information sessions for kids that are interested in a certain career. That person can come in. If it has a screen, we can connect with technology, but basically a place that students can just go to for these types of concerns, or sorry, their interests.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably running over. I don't have a clock.
All right, thanks, David. Well, it's a lot.
I hear the gong. I hear the gong.
So
So I should probably.
what's interesting, so you now have some of your adjustment counselors, you said, spread out. So the idea of having a centrally located and co-located suite is one that is exciting to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the small conference room, would IEP meetings be happening there? Because they can get rather large, right?
They could. I mean, right now we have the main office has a couple of conference rooms that we tend to use. It's kind of an all-purpose area that whoever has a meeting going on can use that space. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. All right. Thanks. And we've done that. And now on to music.
So I'm going to talk about music for Tom Bankert, who could not be here tonight. So Tom Bankert is our Director of Visual and Performing Arts. So the Wakefield Memorial High School Music Program is really an outstanding program, a leader in the state for both performances and participation by students. So one of the key features that Tom talked a lot about was sort of the wide range of courses that we are able to offer, and we would be able to offer even more with appropriate space. So we have ensemble courses in band, chorus, strings. We also try to offer music theory from introductory theory all the way to AP, and electronic music, music composition, songwriting. So the other key feature, if you visit any of our classes, is you see a range of ages in our classes. So there's really built more advanced students are able to work with younger students to help them with their musical skills, but also just sort of guide and serve.
There. Yeah, I don't know if other people heard that, but you were breaking up for me. Were other people experiencing that? I hear, yeah.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is a little wonky tonight. Better now?
Yeah.
Okay, so just that older to younger student in the same classes so that they're able to sort of lead and guide them as mentors and as older students in the program. I think another key feature that Tom pointed out here is that the sort of trajectory for many of our students who are interested in exploring music beyond high school. So really preparing them for that next step. And I think that comes into sort of the features of the program that we'd like to see the building have. If you've ever visited, for those of you on the call who know the music wing, really it's an old cafeteria that was turned into the music space. So really we're looking to have an orchestra or band ensemble room where we have plenty of instrument storage, an ensemble room for chorus. Right now there is a classroom with Mac computers, similar to what STEM was talking about. Those computers are used specifically for some of the music courses that are needed, that technology. You know, the parent piece of the music program is huge. We have parents in as volunteers and helping all the time. So for them to have a little more space where not only the administrator could be, but they could have space to meet with small groups. And then the practice rooms. I know that's a big thing every time you look at a new high school and how practice space is built in. But not only having ensemble large rooms, but smaller ensemble rooms where kids could work together, and then smaller rooms where they could do private or more one-on-one or two-on-one work, kind of small group work there. And I think Tom put in storage a few times, right? Because in the music program, storage is so incredibly important. So.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Amy. All right, and visual arts, TV media.
My name is Meg McKenna, and I am the visual arts coordinator. So under the visual arts and TV media, is there any way, Dave, you can just put that up just one more, enlarge just a smidge? On my glasses, I can't see it, and then the print is just small.
Let's see.
There you go, perfect. That's great.
That actually made it bigger?
Yes, thank you.
I didn't know that. I'll leave it that way. I thought it would show up the same on everybody's screen. Okay.
So with the visual arts and the TV media department, we consider ourselves an inclusive program that successfully prepares the students for college and careers, as well as provide an avenue for all students, regardless of their talent, to express their individuality and creativity. The key programs that we feature at the moment, there are multiple disciplines within the visual arts. As you can see, we have Studio Art 1 and 2, Ceramics 1 and 2, Graphic Design, Honors Illustration, Drawing and Painting, Digital and Darkroom Photography, AP Art, TV Production 1, 2, 3, and 4, Multimedia, and Film Studies. And with most of our classes, very similar to the music, we include grades 9 through 12. The young students have the unique opportunity to interact with the students older than them in the academic setting.
Mhm.
And many of our students will continue in college as a visual art or TV majors. Some key spaces that we need, because right now we are multitasking in the small rooms that we have with multiple materials in a singular room.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I don't know. Seems very trigger happy here. Okay, there we go.
Right there. So what we would look for, we'd like to see, would be some 3D workspaces, 2D workspaces, digital workspaces, photography studios, a space with proper lighting for photographing 2 and 3D work for student portfolios. In the classrooms, multiple sinks and clay traps for the ceramic studio, ample storage for supplies and student work, ample electrical outlets for all of our workspaces. For TV, a sound and editing room, a green screen with sound staging, a TV studio with proper lighting and high ceilings, and locked storage for all equipment. And we look forward to the future of Wakefield Memorial High School Visual Arts and Media Department. We're very strong now, but I feel with bigger space for the students to be able to work together and continue to showcase their work even more so in the school. We do a nice job in the community, but continue to even showcase more in the school would be great. And these spaces that we would get would need to be flexible in order to be able to use a variety of our disciplines and the media that we've chosen within the department. And we would love to be able to continue to display work in the community as well as in our own school.
Yeah. And we'll be looking, Meg, at, display and exhibition venues throughout the school.
Yes.
As a way to showcase work and artwork, 2D, 3D, and other work as well. Oftentimes, like if you go into a school like the high-tech high network schools, you see all these physics experiments on the wall, things that are operable. It kind of feels museum-like. So we can be thinking about opportunities for display of all kind. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This is okay. Theater.
Hi, everybody. My name is Phil Cavanier, live from theater rehearsal. Sorry for the awkward lighting throughout the evening. I can't
very
seem to
dramatic.
escape it. It's very, yeah, now it looks like I'm in a black pit. So anyways, it's a good reminder why we're doing all of this. The students are right in front of me right now. So anyways, the theater program produces 3 to 4 main stage productions. Obviously, that was interrupted by COVID. One of the areas the most. We use the Savings Bank Theater here at the High School, which is a small semicircle theater, and also the Galvin Auditorium. This year, we're offering classes in acting and directing, lots of student leadership opportunities. All of the opportunities that we have is for technical theater, so anything from costume design to sound design, scenic painting and makeup design, all of that is student driven. We hire professionals to work with them because it's their only opportunity to work in these fields, right? These are unknown fields. Students, they don't know what lighting design is unless it's a hands-on experience. So they're working with some of them right now. We offer master classes. We bring in actors from Boston theater area or New York. Our theater also has a lot of community use with the suites or lecture series. We participate in statewide and nationwide competitions in acting and musical theater that starts this December again. And lots of community outreach. Whenever we do a sponsorship drive or an advertisement drive, we get lots of great responses. What do we need? Well, we need a theater. We've got a cute theater right now that was a community-driven project, and we're extremely thankful for the space, but it's really hard. There's no wing space, there's no appropriate technical theater spaces. There's no fly system here, so we can't really do anything in-house. Everything we do has to sit on a truck and head down the street. So it's not really a 21st century technical theater learning opportunity as far as theater education is concerned. We don't have appropriate rehearsal spaces, especially for dance. So we need those aspects to be outfitted in any sort of a new building. And looking forward, hopefully our students would be able to create fully realized productions in their own space, right? So they could own it and be part of it. And that uses all the skills that we were talking about earlier today. So creativity, collaboration, critical thinking. We need safe spaces for technical theater creation. And then also opportunities for technical theater during the day. We can't offer them right now because we don't have the spaces or the staff to do that. But that would be the goal in the future.
Okay, great. Thanks, Will. All right. And community connections.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I was late tonight. I had to juggle family commitments. So for community connections, we kind of pulled our heads together and thought about, what kind of connections we currently have to our community. Currently we have, I think it's the oldest, I'm not sure in the state or the country, a collaboration with our savings bank in town. And we have an educational savings bank branch. It's an active branch, which our students sign up for classes. I saw two girls standing in front of it yesterday and I was like, are you banking? I was so excited about it, but they weren't. So then I was disappointed. I think AJ Beebe, one of our former guidance directors, is one of the people that actually uses the bank on a pretty consistent basis, but we would love to see that open up more to the public and the students so that they can learn both sides of banking. We currently also have a school store. The bank is kind of works in conjunction with that to some degree. Students are either participating in the banking aspect of things or the school store branch, which sells our school gear. We have a culinary department, which very thankfully feeds all of us on a pretty consistent basis. And it would be great to really see some of those programs grow. Back in the day, they used to, I think, serve to the public. People that have worked in Wakefield longer than me can probably speak to that. I see Caitlin Trelli nodding her head, so I think I'm accurate on that. But that would be an interesting concept for sure. Will just mentioned our Savings Bank Theater, which is a wonderful space for, small theater productions, but, looking ahead, and I know I'll get to that piece in a minute, it would really be great to see us have more of a capacity to do some bigger and better productions in our own building rather than having to relocate. It would save on time for our staff, but also for our students who are so overly scheduled to be able to just stay in their current location and work on these programs. And then we also house our WCAT, our Wakefield Community Access Television. We have meetings there, but we also, some of our members in the district do some shows down there to promote things going on in town. And we would love to see more of a connection with our current video and theater, video and TV students working more with WCAT. So we would love for these spaces to be, accessible as much as possible to students, faculty, and then obviously during the day, but also to the public, and I think I've said this a few times in some of the meetings that we've had, really start to make our work public to our local community. So much of what we do in Wakefield Memorial High School is amazing, but really getting it out there to people and bringing them into the inside and the inner workings of what we do during the day. We definitely want these spaces to be flexible and have learning happen literally anywhere and everywhere. And then looking forward, sorry, my daughter is torturing me. We would love to see these spaces, kind of really bridge the gap between outside and inside. And, everybody likes to use our spaces, and we would love to be proud of these spaces. I think a larger sized auditorium where we can have more than like a quarter of our class, a quarter of our building be able to fit in these spaces would be, optimal for us as a staff. Again, thinking about minimizing the time that we have to pull away from learning for students and maximizing, our ability to be able to reach more kids at once would be amazing. It's kind of like a dream that we as administrative team have, to be able to, pull more than just, 200 kids from the freshman class, be able to tell the same message twice a day instead of 4 or 5 times a day would be lovely. So that's basically what we're thinking about when it comes to community connections. Wakefield is a very tight-knit community. And so really driving home these parts would help to bridge the gap between the outside of Wakefield Memorial High School and the inside.
Well, I think that thinking about having a more public and more private realm of the school also just makes that kind of public access and interactions with the public a lot easier as we think about co-locating some of these spaces in ways that they're more easily accessible to the public. All right.
Completely. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Geraldine. And library media.
Hi, I'm Diana Ho. I'm the librarian at the high school. The Governor Volpe Library provides students with essential future-ready research skills and access to robust academic resources. While many of our high-caliber resources are web-based, we continue to respond to students' preference and need for print materials for both their educational and recreational needs. The library supports the WMHS curriculum, and we specifically look at ways to make sure that our students know how to find information, to evaluate it, to use data, and to communicate effectively using those materials. The library prepares students to be lifelong learners and engaged citizens by modeling access to public institutions like public libraries in a guided manner. Our library is currently lacking adequate flexible furniture, storage space for our physical book collection, as well as the modern aspects that most libraries already have, like digital signage and makerspace, high-tech tools, and things like that. Additionally, the library, which is often considered the heart of the school, is located in the ground level of the building, kind of like the foot of the school, I guess, and has no windows and is removed from the school community, and community is very gloomy. Looking forward, the library will continue to predict and respond to student academic technology needs and as educational trends shift. But we'd like the library space to complement and amplify the student and faculty work that's already happening there. And we'd like modern fixtures and amenities that have become commonplace in other schools and other library buildings, while continuing to provide that robust library collection and services that we've built over the last 10 years.
Great, thanks, Diana. Well, definitely we're looking at the library as being one of the hubs of the learning hubs of the school, and libraries these days take on lots of different elements of, more collaborative, more quiet areas for book storage, areas for breakout, potential connection to makerspace. So we'll definitely be, talking about what that looks like, and certainly a central and light-filled location is something that we'll be thinking about. All right, and athletics and wellness.
So Brendan asked me if I could present this as well. So Brendan Ken, our Director of Athletics, worked with the health and wellness teachers to kind of put this together. I think components of this program is that it's multifaceted, right? It encompasses our wellness, our 4-year wellness curriculum, which is physical education. Our students have 2 years of health education. And then there's the athletics program. I think that more and more this department has sort of focused on not only the physical health, but the mental, social, and emotional health and wellness of our students. They have a new curriculum, the health and wellness curriculum that parallels the curriculum that's happening through the district, the Michigan model, thinking about personal fitness and wellness and classes that support that through using it, whether it's the outdoor course, the outdoor adventure course, or thinking about the work that's happening in classrooms. So Brendan put a lot of key space needs here that obviously revolve around the field house and the wet wrestling and gym and things. But I think the other piece that's on here is sort of the facilities that go around that, health and wellness classrooms that are connected to these facilities that I think we're sorely lacking or just aren't there, so that there's separation in spaces, right? So when students are using equipment, they're in a much different area than if they're not using equipment. Or if they are going to spend half and half doing something in the field house and then going to a classroom, it's very difficult to do. I think that the last thing that they talked about looking forward is how important this department is more than ever before. We know that students need outlets, students need support on how to live lifestyle that support sort of all areas of this are really what this department is looking for.
Great. Okay, thanks, Amy. Yeah, this is certainly something that permeates now throughout the curriculum and the building in a way that it hasn't in the past. So and there are certainly key spaces and logistics to be thinking about for making these connections work. All right. And did I get everyone? Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay.
I think you got everyone, David.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Again, Phil and his team are going to be drilling down into much more detail with you over time as they get into more detailed analysis of the building and the spaces and your space needs. But this gives us sort of some big picture, some of the themes that are really important, and some of the general sort of adjacencies that we're thinking about and co-location of spaces that are important to you. Let's take a 15-minute break. It's 7:35 right now, so we'll come back at 7:50. And then we're going to jump into looking at some strengths and challenges, and then we're going to start talking about some design patterns. Okay? See you at 7:50. Okay, I'm going to start calling people back in the next minute or two. We'll get started again. Okay, if people could make their way back, we're just going to get started again. And well, we've got another hour and 10 minutes, and I want to make sure that we have a good amount of time to spend with our first introduction to the design patterns. But first, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to start talking about strengths, challenges, opportunities, and goals as connected to both the Wakefield Memorial Education Program, and we also want to be having you reflect on your building and think about some of the things that you may like about your building. We'd certainly be curious to know about what they are. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go to menti.com again. And that same code, 89666042. And we're going to spend just about 3 minutes. I've got 6 of these slides to get through, and I want to do it in less than 20 minutes. So we're going to spend about 3 minutes on each section. So now there's going to be 2 strengths pages and 2 challenges and 2 opportunities. So the first one, this is around educational strengths, and we're going to do another one for facility strengths or architectural strengths. So yeah, just let's see what people are thinking. When you think about what is it that you do really well at WFHS, and what is it that it's really important for the design team to know that we need to support. And we've already, again, there's a lot of overlap between a lot of these conversations. We've already heard a lot about STEM and visual and performing arts and theater arts. But anything you can think of that you want to put here for your strengths. Mm-hmm. Now, is this large enough for people to read now? I made the screen bigger, so, all right. So looks like there's a lot of learning tracks and access points for students at different levels. Teachers have a degree of autonomy. Teachers care. Connections with students, not surprising. And because there's a lot of passionate educators that we've talked to so far. It's a variety of educational options, AP art program, many elective opportunities, a movement towards more learner-centered strategies and student-driven learning. Okay, the arts comes up a lot again. Creating communities and creating support systems. And that's where I really think that a new building or a substantially renovated building or new building is going to help you to, because we do think a lot more than we used to about how those communities get built and how spaces work off of each other. Okay, excellent teachers, strong curriculum and professional development support. Educators seeking out continuing education and improvement to their practice. Well-rounded multimodal programs catering to all learning styles. Civic engagement, enthusiasm for growth of programs. Well, it sounds like a very positive culture to teach and learn within. We'll just leave this open for another 20 seconds or so if anybody has anything else they want to add. And certainly feel free to voice anything if you are passionate about it and would like to share it with the larger group. Care and connection with students. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, which is what you see as the facilities' greatest strengths. Are there things that you like about the present facility that you feel like either work really well or create a sense of community that you value? And if there's nothing you can think of, then no problem, but we're really interested to hear what might come to mind. So you've got a good amount of square footage. You got some space to spread out into and a variety of classroom sizes. Some large classrooms. Outdoor sports areas for public use. Okay, large cafeteria. How do you refer to that as WCAT or WSAT? WCAT? Okay. So access to WCAT. Yeah, anything else that's coming up for folks? Maybe we don't have to spend too much time on this one. Science classrooms with large lab spaces. Okay. Large field house, Savings Bank Theater, field house, WCAT. A decent black box event space for lecture type events. The Savings Bank Theater, it's not adequate as a fully functional theater. Okay. Custodial staff takes good care. Great space for costume storage and set building. And proximity to Breakheart Reservation. Innovative use of antiquated spaces. So you're making the best of the spaces that you have. Okay, great. Let's then move on to where again we have two slides. We've got one for what are your greatest educational challenges at the moment? And then we're going to talk about facility challenges, which there'll probably be a lot of. And as we think about the challenges too, we can think about what opportunities there are with the design of a new building to address some of those challenges, if there are, if it's something that can be addressed just by the building. Okay, so disconnect between departments, which is extremely typical. Most high schools have been designed as pretty siloed, departmentally organized spaces. We'll be thinking about how to give you the best of both worlds, connection between departments, but also opportunities for other connections. STEM spaces, fine and performing arts, guidance suite, a lot of things that have already come up. All right. Outdated lab spaces, spread out resources, yeah, educational silos. Insufficient student support suites, okay. A sprawling building, also very typical. Not allowing for collaboration between classes and disciplines. You know, I just visited your building once and I felt like it was a much larger school than it was. It felt like it should have had 2,000 kids in it for how long the hallways felt and just like how circuitous it was to get to the room that we were presenting in. ADA accessibility, lack of outlets, flexible space to meet the needs of students. So a lot of these are actually, they're educational challenges, but they're connected to the building. Not enough breakout spaces, inability to use the latest tech, separated. Yeah, so a lot of these are physical, limited collaborative spaces. No administrators housed on the ground or top floor. Interesting. So yeah, we're going to talk about that idea of distributed leadership or distributed resources and how that can help to give life to different areas of the building. No ability to accommodate medically fragile students or students with disabilities. Okay. All right. So again, a lot of these are related to building, but I'm going to flip over to more specifically if there are any other things about the facility. I think we probably covered a lot of the main ones that or the lowest hanging fruit, but if there's other stuff that you can think of in terms of the facility that's particularly challenging. HVAC. And temperature control, yeah, and heating and cooling issues, and that connects to a lot about how people feel within the building, if it's too hot, too cold. Parking and traffic flow, rooms with no windows or lack of natural light, comfortable lighting, the lighting that you do have, be a strain, general flow, restrooms for faculty and staff, poorly constructed building, showing its age, terrible lighting. Okay. Circulation in and around the property, okay, and limited technology. Sound control issues, air quality, lighting, air, energy conservation, not using space effectively. So the good news is we're going to be able to really address all of these with this project here. Inflexible spaces, room numbers are hard to locate, or room numbers or just being hard to navigate your way around. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to the last category, which we have 2 slides for. Now, first is your greatest educational opportunities and goals. Second is will be your greatest facility opportunities and goals. So really thinking about educational program here. And I know we've started to talk about a lot of these themes, what you'd like to do educationally. Again, we're just trying to hit this from lots of different angles. So what do you see as the greatest educational opportunities and goals as connected to this project? Okay, collaborative work in and between departments, stronger STEM, pairing all students at every level, more STEM spaces, flexible collaborative spaces, technology, future ready space to prepare students for their future, whatever that is. even greater learning outcomes as evidence in test scores, college admissions, better equity and access, better adjacencies within and across departments, improve performing arts, state-of-the-art STEM spaces, and collaboration among departments, incorporating vocational aspects into all curricula. Proximity to the Voc Tech for possible sharing and program access, programming that connects students with authentic experiences, guidance in SEL, a greater variety of course options, facilitated by modern flexible spaces, STEM lab that can support innovative technologies, and engagement of community. Great. And finally, we're going to go to, and a lot of these are about the building, but let's think specifically about other architectural opportunities and goals. Okay, improve lighting and air, open space, making work more public, encouraging interdisciplinary work, net zero building, bright, light-filled and joyful spaces, modern and inspiring, bringing outside light in, spaces that support learner-centered pedagogies, inviting front face to the community, flexible spaces for students to engage, welcoming space that will survive design trends, modern athletic spaces, improving traffic flow, availability for public access, using natural materials to better plan an environment and location of school, okay. And focus on indoor air quality with material selection, looking at sustainable material use, outdoor spaces that account for New England weather, that protect from weather, but still might allow you to be outside. Enough square footage to accommodate growth within the community and integrating sustainable features that can be integrated into the curriculum. And one of the design patterns that we're going to be looking at in just a few minutes is building as teacher. Respectful area that showcases why and who WMHS is memorialized for, okay. With easier handicap design, easy access to the outdoors. Okay, great. Efficiently uses space and provides opportunities for district income by creating rentable space. Definitely doable. All right, so I'm going to get now into design patterns, and I just want to say that next time that we meet, we are going to be getting into small breakout groups 2 different times. The first one we're going to do is actually talking more about these design patterns. Today, I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to have you respond to them in real time, and I'm going to give you opportunities to rate them. So your own personal kind of preference for the things that you're most excited about. Next time we meet, we'll see the things that we've begun to prioritize as a group, and you're going to have a conversation in your group, in small groups, and create sort of a list of priority design patterns. We're also going to be getting into groups to talk about guiding principles that are going to guide the whole design of the project. So I do apologize that that this is a little bit presentation heavy tonight, but there's a lot of nice pictures coming up. So, and the way this is going to work is I'm going to share, I think I have 37 or 38 design patterns. that I'm going to be sharing with you. And each of them, and this is really about pushing your thinking forward about what's possible. Each of them in the bottom right-hand corner has either a heart. If you love it, you can press on the heart, and we're going to see how many people love a particular idea. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down so we know. And if you don't really know because you need to learn more about it, you can press the question mark. So it's really nice to have, I'm going to be moving through these slides. I'm not going to be spending more than about 30 to 45 seconds on each slide. So you have to do this relatively quickly, but I will really just invite you to give us your off-the-cuff response to each of these different patterns, because it's helpful for us as we start to think about prioritizing them. I wanted to emphasize that this is about the concept, not the details. So if I'm talking about a particular design pattern, but you don't really like the furniture in it or the colors or the finished materials, don't worry about that. It's more the big picture concept. And there's going to be a lot of overlap between these concepts. You might like all of them. Most people do like most of them or many of them. Some people don't though, and we want to know what you're really most resonating with. And we want to also be thinking about language that we want to develop for how to describe these design patterns that are most important to you. So this is sharing a lot of ideas and seeing, you know, what sticks to the wall. So I've divided these into 4 sets. Each set has 10, the first set has 10. I think all the others have 9. Okay. And so I'm going to share the first set, and you're going to get to respond to each slide individually. And then I'm going to give you a list of all of them, and you're going to get to rate which ones are most interesting to you on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. Again, it's 8:10 right now, so I'm going to try and pace myself so we can get through all of them. But if anyone does have a question as we're going along, it's okay to raise your hand and ask it, and we'll try and address it. Okay.
David, just to be clear, we're interacting through the Menti site, not
Yes.
through your presentation.
Right, through the Menti
Thanks.
site. Now, is everybody on the Menti site still? So you don't need the number to get there, right? You're all on there. So you can see this slide and you see the stuff in the corner, right?
Can you just remind folks, David, of the number?
Yeah, let me go. I thought I actually had them on each of these slides, but I'm going to have to get back to another slide that do. So here's the number, 8966-6042. So let me just wait there for a minute and make sure everybody is on there. If you could just give me a thumbs up when you're on there, so I know. Okay. Am I good to move forward then? We have the number? All right. Yes, so set number 1. Okay, starting out with welcoming arrival. We want to make sure that, first of all, we know where to enter the school. It's always nice to know how to get into the school. It's nice if it feels like a welcoming arrival sequence. We certainly want to be able to also, in terms of safety, be able to see clearly who's coming towards the school. So there's some defensible space stuff built into this as well. It's always nice to have some kind of overhang that protects from the weather. So you can, if the door is locked, you might be waiting for the school to open. We want to be thinking about what this looks like at night as well as people are arriving. So a space like this here, which really lights up at night, is very welcoming. Okay, so all right, I'm going to keep moving along here. Greeting and gatekeeping. So we want to be thinking about what people's first impression is when they come in. Do they see a friendly face when they enter? Is it easy to find where the main office is? Is it easy to also, once you are safely in and have been let in and we know you're allowed to be in the building, is it easy to understand how to navigate your way through the building? So wayfinding is sort of a big part of this as well. What's on display? Is there evidence of what the school values? At this school in Harlem, they've got all these notice boards with all the clubs and the different announcements and things. And so you can see sort of the life of the school, or you might see student work on display. Now, greeting and gatekeeping is also about providing a gatekeeping mechanism, but it's really about a sense of welcome and sort of understanding when you come into the school about where to go. Security and welcome. So security, we know we're going to be thinking about global principles of security. We're going to be making sure that it's clearly easy to see who's coming into the building, that there are multiple chances to say no. We're buzzing people in. We have one point of entry, and it's close to the administration. In this particular diagram here, you can see that if a student forgets their lunch, your parent or guardian doesn't even need to enter into the school. They can just pass it through this bank window, like a teller window right there. But we want to be thinking about lots of different elements of security in terms of having passive and active measures, integrated communication plans, good lines of sight. But another part of this is that it feels welcoming. It doesn't feel like a prison when you enter. Wayfinding and streetscape. So, you know, I often joke or have the experience when I'm in schools that it feels like you're in The Shining, like it's like all these hallways that look very institutional and it's really hard to know where to go. And they all look exactly the same, except maybe the lockers are a different color. Well, what if there's some, first of all, maybe some natural light pouring in and lots of safely out of reach or behind glass work on display, or views into things that are interesting happening, like a makerspace or a conference room, or there's a space along the way where there's an extended learning area where you have a real sense of place that gets created by color, by texture, by furniture, and then we can use floor patterning as well. But we want to be able to find our way through the building easily again once we're safely within it. And we want to be thinking about not just hallways, but the idea of streetscapes, of really orchestrating an experience along the way where there are, you know, learning is palpable, it's on display, and it's exciting and inspiring. Clusters of learning. Clusters of learning, this is the Denver School of Science and Technology. Now you have here these clusters. This one is the cafeteria, located with the gym. And this can be locked off from the rest of the school. It becomes a community center after hours and on weekends, and it can be totally separate from the academic wing of the school. But then within the academic wing, there are clusters of varied spaces. So in this case, this is actually a interdisciplinary grade level neighborhood where you've got a science classroom, a math classroom, and then a humanities classroom with a wall in between. And this is a particular curriculum that goes along with this. You've got a teacher planning area right there. And then you've got these large extended learning areas, these commons areas here that are like living rooms around which these classrooms are clustered. So it really becomes a neighborhood. Now, this neighborhood could be a humanities neighborhood, or it could be a STEM neighborhood. In this case, this is a science and math high school, and we've got our big ticket science classrooms located along the hallway here, and they're really showcased. There's lots of glass that looks in. But the idea here is that you have these clusters, and another way that we describe it is through neighborhoods, and we'll come up to that. But agile classrooms. So the classrooms, of course, are still the basic building block. What does it mean to have an agile classroom? It doesn't mean you have to have necessarily a lot of bells and whistles. In this classroom, you see there's good natural light. There's a lot of electrical that comes pulled down from the ceiling. This has a more industrial aesthetic. It's got windows that look out into an extended learning area. It's got furniture that's modular and flexible that you can group together for project-based learning. This classroom here, you can see has a movable sliding whiteboard walls or doors that open up to 2 feet of shelving in back of it that's 20 feet wide. So you can store a lot of stuff there, and you can also cover it up completely, and it's a whiteboard. This also has a movable wall in between these two classrooms. These are expensive. We don't necessarily put them in unless you need them, but we oftentimes in a cluster of classrooms will think about providing a movable wall. It has good sound acoustics. It can be whiteboard or it can be tackable board, but it does allow you all of a sudden to open up to 2 classrooms. And again, modular flexible furnishing. This is plastic stackable chairs. These tables, a lot of these, some of them are different height. You can change the heights. So we want to be thinking about ergonomics as well. And of course, there's robust technology in these classrooms. So the technology is easy to store and to charge. Classroom neighborhoods. This is similar to clusters of learning. This is the West Bridgewater Middle High School, and it's a MSBA building. And you can see here that we've got what we would call a double loaded hallway, but there's a missing tooth right here. And this is what we call a team room or an extended learning area. It's right next to a teacher planning suite, by the way. And then it's got classrooms. Some of them are special education classrooms. We've got toilets right nearby. So what you have here, and then you've got windows. They're not huge windows, but they're windows. They all have blinds so that when you want to put the blinds down, you can. But otherwise, you have this connectivity to this central meeting space that becomes then a neighborhood. This could be, again, a departmental neighborhood, or it could be an interdepartmental neighborhood. I will say that in terms of meeting space, that the MSBA, I think I mentioned this last week, provides 75 square feet per teacher for a professional workspace. And they want to facilitate teachers working collaboratively together. They also want to facilitate maximal utilization of classroom spaces, meaning they don't want any classroom to sit empty more than 15% of the day. They're working towards what they call 85% utilization. And that's why when a teacher has a break, they would like that teacher to be in a professional learning environment where they have locked storage and where they can collaborate and work independently or with their colleagues, and someone else can use their classroom. That might be different in a science classroom, which requires lab setup. This is connected to the idea of neighborhoods as well, but this is a community access neighborhood. So this is also at West Bridgewater, and this is the main entry to the school. And like Denver School of Science and Technology, this whole academic wing can be locked off from what is essentially becoming a community center. We've got the gymnasium and fitness area. We've got a cafeteria, beautiful cafe space that they do rent out, and it's a good source of revenue. It's connected to outdoor, an interior courtyard, outdoor space, auditorium, band. They also have a video cable access television program there that's embedded within the school. And this is all accessible after hours and on weekends. And the academic wings of the school can be locked off. Universal design and access. I've mentioned this in terms of going beyond ADA compliance. We want to, first of all, be using materials that feel calming and life-affirming, and have comfortable and easy to access furniture, good natural light, easy wayfinding throughout the building, and being able to interact with different elements in the building in really sort of natural and easy ways. Push in special education. And this is something that comes into that category of we're going to be doing this anyway. Of course, we're going to be talking to you about what sub-separate programs or self-contained programs you have, but DESE is going to require us to look at a push-in special education approach. This is what we call a bubble diagram. This is from the Beverly Middle School, and it just shows one of those classroom neighborhoods where you've got classrooms that have some breakout rooms that are immediately accessible to the classrooms and shared between 2 classrooms. You've got a special education resource room and classroom that is part of this whole area, that's part of this whole neighborhood. so it's embedded within it. Oftentimes, we look at these spaces as also providing areas for enrichment and just differentiated instruction of all kinds. So it's not stigmatized that students have to go far away from their grade level or their classrooms to get the services that they need. All right, so that's the first 10 that we're moving through. And I think I'm gonna have to pick up my pace a little bit, but let's give you a few minutes to just tell us the things that you're most excited about. We're gonna see a graph come up on screen using Mentimeter. Tell us the things that most resonate with you, and you think when you think about a new, your hopes for this new facility, what are the things that really are most important to you? So just looking briefly here, certainly universal design and access is right up near the top. Seems like this idea of clusters of learning or classroom neighborhoods is resonating with folks, as are, of course, the idea of agile classrooms. All right, I'm going to move us on in 1 minute, but let's just take it for anybody that still needs to input. Okay, I'm going to move on now to set number 2. And I'm going to move a little bit faster because I want to be able to be conscious of time here. So flexible modular furniture, we know that that is one of the basic components of creating flexible use of space. We want to be thinking about furniture that is ergonomic, that's solid enough to be able to withstand student use of students of all different sizes, and also light enough that it's easy to move around. And this is at West Bridgewater. They spent a lot of time thinking about their furniture, and these are rocker-based chairs that 90% of their chairs in their classrooms have a rocking chair kind of base, which you would think could be very distracting, but they find that it really works very well for kids that fidget, which a lot of us do, and they're really happy with that choice. But the idea is flexible modular furniture. And as I move faster here, if you want to give it a heart, then you're going to have to be a little quick on the draw. Spatial synergy. This has a lot to do with the idea of clusters of learning. This is a school in Los Angeles, a public school, Da Vinci Wiseburn High School. And this is a typical classroom neighborhood. They've got actually a STEM lab here. And we've got a collection of classrooms. Instead of being located along a hallway, it's got this central space here that's got electrical that pulls down from the ceiling, flexible furniture. It's got a nook here in the hallway that's open with a whiteboard. It's got a small breakout room. It's got a platform that is carpeted plywood platform that kids can sit on with their technology. It's got one set of classes that have a movable wall in between. It's no more square footage, but what this gives you is really a collection of lots of different types of size spaces in a community, in a small learning neighborhood that allows you to use it in many different ways. Extended learning spaces. Here's some examples also at Da Vinci. So here's what one of those central spaces looks like. In this instance, it's carpeted, it's got shelving, it's got a small stage platform. They do a lot of sort of presentations and exhibitions as part of this program. It's got bookshelves. Here's Sanford Regional Technical Center, areas where kids can work out in the hallway. We see it happening anyway. And this is sort of saying, let's make it really comfortable. Let's utilize those spaces for small group and individual work. But this is also a great space to be having a morning meeting or a pick-me-up or taking 2 classes and doing some kind of presentation. Breakout and quiet spaces. So here's an example, just a nook in a classroom where a kid can read and be in plain sight, but get quiet. Here's one of those nooks actually at where you don't have a door, but you've got some technology and a whiteboard wall and some fun flexible furniture. This is a breakout room at Beverly Middle School, an MSBA project that's shared between 2 classes, and you can access it from either side. There's lots of visual accessibility. It can connect these 2 classrooms together, as well as allow you to have an extended learning and quiet breakout space for students. Anywhere, anytime learning, just the idea that students don't need to be in the classroom to be learning. They've got technology that's mobile, and with enough visibility. Maybe here's the idea of having these kind of small meeting rooms that you see in workspaces and in group workspaces. Here's a space where you've got some teacher offices, you got views in and out of classrooms, and kind of a living room area, in this case with some carpeting and some more kind of soft seating. But we're certainly looking at the building as being fully wired, and we want to make sure that learning can happen anywhere in the building. Dining as social commons. So the idea here is that we see that dining is where community is built. Although it's really nice to have one big cafeteria where you can have large group meetings, that can also be very overwhelming and cacophonous for students. And for some kids, it's really difficult to navigate. So here's the idea of having some smaller social commons. These could be also these extended learning areas, but in this case, they're around the perimeter of the cafeteria where you have some smaller dining venues. And they also become flexible spaces that can be used when meal service is not happening. They're good project areas or extended learning spaces. Cafe forum. The idea here is that the cafeteria becomes sort of the central forum for the school. It's the largest, it's oftentimes one of the larger spaces. And it's a space where that's multifunctional. During food service, of course, it's going to be used for that, but you might have flexible furniture within it that allows it to be used in many different ways. This is a whole network of schools in Sweden, Kunskapsskolan, where the cafeteria is also the hub of learning and where a lot of group meeting happens and community is built. And this is connected to that idea also, the idea of the heart of the school. And here's an example of where we've got these, what we call learning stairs or Google stairs that have a performance element to it. This is a great place if you were going to have a brown bag lunch with professionals coming in to do a presentation and talk about their careers. This could be a really good place to do it, or a student performance. But this is the cafeteria at Minuteman Tech, also the hub of the school, centrally located, light-filled. So the idea is that the school itself, there's a there, and it's oftentimes you go into schools and there really is no there. And when it is the cafeteria, it feels quite either dark or institutional. Media center as learning commons. So moving away from the basement into sort of a light-filled space that has areas for collaboration, for individual work, for book storage, for small kind of seminar type of activities. We see also the media center and the Learning Commons as oftentimes playing the role of being the heart of the school as well. All right, so that was the second set. And I'll give people a little bit of time to just talk about what you're most excited about. Yeah, it's interesting because we talk a lot about collaboration spaces, and I think that's because we're really lacking many of those spaces in our more traditional buildings. But there's also a huge need for those breakout and quiet spaces and places where students and teachers can get quiet and focused. So we want to be thinking about, again, the idea of variety of spaces and then the synergy between those spaces. So that gives you kind of something that is greater than the sum of its parts. So right up at the top here, we've got extended learning spaces and then breakout and quiet spaces. People like the idea of the heart of the school, and a bunch of these other things are kind of like, looks like they're pretty much equally distributed there. All right, we've got 2 more sets and I think we're gonna be okay for time. So teacher teaming. Now this is, these are examples of classroom neighborhoods in which are specifically designed towards kind of a teaming approach. So in this situation, and these are both part of the high-tech network of schools in San Diego. This is a grade level sort of team that's much more specific to the curriculum there. But the idea is that you've got classrooms where there's some movable walls in between these classrooms. And there's a living room here. There's teacher offices right here. Here you've got a set of classrooms again, one with some connectivity. You've got teacher offices and then a centralized space. So it is that idea of a small learning community. And in this situation, it doesn't need to be cross-discipline, but it could be more of a departmental model. Again, this is quite specific to a more collaborative teaching approach. But I think what we want to be thinking about for you all is how can we promote more of that teaming and collaboration, which people have been saying that they like, but in a way that is aligned with your sort of your approach. Professional work areas, as I said, the MSBA is going to provide a good amount of square footage for this, and this is something, these spaces become work areas. They can oftentimes have kitchenettes within them, areas for locked storage for teachers, or shelving, and then we can think about making them visually accessible to the life of the school, which also provides, it's nice for kids to see adults modeling collaborative behavior. And it's also nice for them to know where to find adults and to have sort of informal supervision or the opportunities for that when you're in these collaborative environments. Flexible science labs. Now the MSBA does have its own model for science labs where you get a lot of square footage, 60 square feet per student. So class of 24, you got a 1,440 square foot science lab. they will not allow any centrally located or, islands with systems for labs. All of that needs to be around the perimeter. And you can see here, this is at Essex Tech and MSBA building where we've got these, now these are chemical safe tables, but they've got wheels on one end. So they're heavy, but you can move them around. And in a lab situation, you move them to the perimeter of the room. But again, a good amount of square footage, and the idea is to make these spaces as flexible as possible. STEM and STEAM and maker spaces. This is a space at Da Vinci Science, which actually also does Project Lead the Way as you do. And that's a lot of that rack mounted shelving for these kits. This is at the Beverly Middle School and MSBA project, where there are 12 classroom neighborhoods and each one of them has one of these maker spaces, and which also acts as their extended learning area or kind of like hands-on learning area. So this is a school district that actually did a lot of professional development around project-based learning and was really committed to the idea of providing these hands-on spaces in every collection of classrooms. You can see that we've got modular furniture, easy to rearrange and spread out on, and then lots of good lockable storage there. STEM and STEAM adjacencies, we're back at West Bridgewater Middle High School. And I wanted to show you here that just through the adjacency of spaces, we have created a STEM and STEAM wing of the high school. So this is the first floor, and we saw this before. There's cable access TV. Here is the computer lab. Here is the robotics lab or makerspace, and it's got a garage door that opens directly out into this courtyard and another garage door that opens up into this atrium. This is the STEAM atrium. And then we've got our art classrooms right here. And right here is a gallery, an art gallery. Right upstairs, directly upstairs, we have 4 co-located science classrooms and 4 co-located math classrooms. And so through these adjacencies, we've created, you still get the benefit of these departmental connections, but you also are able to connect them together in a way that, that really promotes more interdisciplinary and STEM and STEAM learning. Similar idea here. This is actually on the this illustration is of an elementary school, Bourne Elementary, an MSBA project. But the illustration here just to get at the idea that we could think about creating innovation hubs. So here, what do we have? We've got the makerspace, we've got the art room in close proximity, we've got the Learning Commons, which is their library media center. We've got a music room, which is in close proximity, but acoustically isolated. And we've got an outdoor classroom. And all of these are co-located so that you get this, again, synergy between these spaces. They're also very centrally located. So we have classroom neighborhoods that are located around the perimeter of these spaces. So you don't have to go far to get to them. And that helps us minimize also the amount of corridor space in the building. Enrichment spaces, again, these are in the MSBA template. They're going to give you a good amount of space for your visual and fine arts and for your athletics. We know these are not just enrichment. We know these are basic parts of your curriculum and very important, vibrant parts of your curriculum. I think the point here is that we, again, want to make these spaces really centrally located so they can be part of that easy to access shared core, and they can also be accessible to the community, or elements of them can be accessible to the community. Visible learning and transparency. So this is not what we typically think of in a school, is that oftentimes when we have a window in the door, we cover it up with paper so that kids don't get distracted. But what that creates is a lot of isolation and being in silos. Certainly in certain places, it might be like with this makerspace right here, or here in a classroom, we've got just a side light. that allows you to see into that hallway or extended learning area. Here at Hunking, no, actually that's mislabeled. This is Beverly Middle School. And we've got this small area outside between these two classrooms where you can actually see this small group work happening. It's just a little alcove that's right there, but it's a great place for tutoring. It's a great place for small group work. Now, the thing about visible learning and transparency is that we know that in a lockdown situation, we need to control visual access. So you need to have blinds and the ability to block off visual access when you need to. But there's a lot that you get out of it in terms of connectivity, in terms of informal supervision, and also in terms of showcasing particular things in the school that you really want to make sure people see. You're doing exciting things. You want to be able for people to pass by and see what's going on. And connected to that, the idea of display and exhibition throughout the school. We know that this is a fire code issue. We want 2D and 3D display areas. We can think also of having flat screen monitors where we can have changing displays. We can think of art displays that are curated throughout the building. And we want to be thinking about multiple venues for kind of showcasing and celebrating the work that's going on. All right. So we got one more section after this, but let's take a few minutes to see what is most exciting to folks. So what I'm going to do for next time when we meet is I'm going to take a combination of the hearts and thumbs up and thumbs down that each of these slides got and look at what's being rated higher here. And from there, we're going to see what bubbles up to the surfaces. So the surface as the things that you're most excited about. And we'll still interact with all of these design patterns, but we'll start to get more focused. And when you meet in your small groups next time, you're going to be thinking about not only which of these design patterns you prioritize, you want to prioritize for the design of the building, but also what it might look like in practice through as you think about it in your own context. So STEM, STEAM, and maker spaces are right up at the top, as are STEM and STEAM adjacencies. So we're definitely going to be thinking about that one. Professional work areas have good appeal, and flexible science labs, enrichment spaces. All right. We've got one more set here of 9. So I'm going to start with storytelling and history. So connected to display and exhibition, but these are more, especially if we're looking at a new building, oftentimes communities really want to celebrate the history of their older building or their community. And so in both of these examples, you can see that these are, really kind of museum quality exhibitions that are also just visually appealing and but really communicate sort of the zeitgeist of the school community, what's important to them. And then this pattern is around branding and identity. So this is actually that Denver school, the Weisburn High School in Los Angeles. And we've got Weisburn, or Da Vinci Science, Da Vinci Communication, and Da Vinci Design. 3 500 student high schools co-located in this one building, and each has their own color and palette of colors and materials. And then we can also be thinking about graphics. So as we think about a new or renovated building, especially in a renovated building, we can use color and we can use floor patterning, texture, to really create a sense of place and to differentiate different parts of the building. We can also communicate your values or a new brand or identity that is part of this process. This is the design pattern of distributed resources. So this is a plan of a middle school, and all of the dark green spaces are adult spaces. And they're located all along with, so every time you've got a kid walking through the hallway here, you've got 5 sets of adult eyes informally trained on you. And what that enables in this school is a lot of agency. These kids basically don't need a pass to go anywhere in the building because everybody's informally kind of like connecting with them anyway. So we've got teacher offices, the reception area, the dean of students, conference area, IT director, and these are all located along sort of visually accessible and connected to the life of the school. Now, this is a relatively small school. Another thing that we might think about is, and this connects to the idea of that there were no, someone commented that there's no adults or administrators on the ground floor or the top floor of your building now. So having that presence gives you a different level of, you know, putting those adults in closer proximity to the students that they're working with and supporting. Effective storage. I mean, who doesn't want this? But we know that storage is huge, especially as we think about doing differentiated instruction, multimodal instruction. If you're doing more project-based learning, you need places to store materials. You need places to store projects. They need to be safely stored. We also want to be thinking about effective storage in terms of lockers. Now, these lockers at Beverly Middle School take up a lot less space and they look a lot less institutional, but they're actually really practical because they're wide and deep. You can put a backpack in there and you can stuff a big coat in there as well. We also want to be thinking about storage within classrooms so that you can store some larger stuff as well as a whole variety of materials. Varied performance venues. We want to be thinking about what are the places within the school where you can do performance in addition to your, you know, your stage, which is going to have lighting and sound and be very well equipped. Here's an example of an additional sort of stage platform in a cafetorium or a cafeteria where there can be presentations that go on there as well. And there's been attention to acoustics that go along with that. Or the idea of having one of these commons areas or extended learning areas that convert into more formal or informal venues for student presentations or gatherings or things that feel more professional. Indoor-outdoor connections. Example here at Minuteman Tech of this interior courtyard with easy access and safe access to students. Here we've got at Winthrop Middle High School a garage door that opens directly out into this extended learning area and allows you to, in that maker space, to take, looks like they're building a boat there. They might be building, you know, a wind-powered vehicle or a human-powered submarine. But we want to be thinking about easy and safe indoor-outdoor connectivity. Outdoor gathering spaces as connected to that too. Someone said weather-appropriate spaces. So here we've got an area with a nice sort of, it feels very enclosed and comfortable to be in, and you're protected from the weather, but you're outside. We can think about spaces like amphitheaters as well. Sustainability. This is one of those, fits into that category that, yes, we're going to be thinking about this. The passive and active measures that go into it. The extent of the sustainability conversation is something that will, you know, that SMMA will be talking to you about. Things like, of course, natural light and ventilation, but also being able to see systems and being able to understand sort of how these systems work. So this gets into this idea, also the idea of the building itself being a teacher, and that you are able to interact with the systems in the building and understand and become sort of shepherds of sort of the environment. And here's some examples of more specifically building as teacher. This is the Putnam School, a K-8 school in Cambridge, where you can actually see inside the walls, and then you can also see inside the mechanical room, and all of the different, the equipment in there is labeled. They've got a very robust recycling program. They've got areas in the hallways where the ceiling is exposed, and all the systems are color coded and labeled so that students can actually understand sort of how they work. Now, this school, I don't have a picture of it, but there is a touchscreen monitor. This is a school that has geothermal wells and photovoltaic panels, and they've got a touchscreen monitor that where students and teachers can interact with those systems and see minute by minute the energy that's coming into the building. All right, so that was our last set. So we'll give a few minutes to reflect on which ones you're most excited about. Okay, so indoor outdoor connections. I mean, I think we learned a lot in the last year and a half about how beneficial it is to have outdoor learning spaces that we can spread out into. We're certainly thinking also about how to maximize use of any school site in terms of creating opportunities for that curriculum might be developed, like through the science department, where you're interacting with natural elements of the site. We want more informal and formal kind of use of outdoor spaces, and making sure that they're wired. Varied performance venues, not surprising. I know that performance itself is something that's really core to the school. That's been a message that's coming out loud and clear. Sustainability, outdoor gathering, effective storage. All right, great. Well, let's take one more minute and make sure everybody has a chance to. Okay, I'm going to leave that up there, so if people want to keep working on that, they can certainly do that. But I do want to respect people's time. We're getting up to 9 o'clock. I know this has been a lot of talking at you tonight, and there's been a lot that I've needed to share. Next time we meet, we're going to get to be in small groups, as I said, and interact around these. And we'll also be talking about guiding principles. So yeah, I really appreciate your being here. If anybody has any questions, I want to open it up for people to feel free to leave. I know you have things that you need to do and attend to, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to stay here and talk to folks. Catherine, did you have a question, or you're just waving goodbye? All right, folks.